Hello guys, Rox here. Today I'm gonna show you my character illustration process. So first I open up a new document. And the first thing that I ever do for every single illustration is to start doing some silhouette sketching. For some of you, this may sound like a waste of time, but I actually think that it's pretty easy to do. And that's the key word, easy. Because you don't want to expend too much time on this, but at the same time, you want to save time. You see, when you make these small sketches, you can have a better view and a feel of your character pose and how he's standing and even the mood of the pose and everything. And I think that's very important. I made a couple for the purpose of this video. I think I will just make 3 or maybe 4. But the thing is, don't focus on details. In this part, it's all about the pose. It may seem like I'm focusing on detail, but believe me, I'm not. I'm just trying to get the pose right. Doing the arm here, the other arm there. With very simple shapes and strokes. Don't worry about detail. I cannot stress this enough. Detail is not important right now. So as you can see, we already have 2 already. I mean, the first one is not finished, I guess, but I can tell the flow of the pose. And I kind of like the second one. But let's see how the third one goes. Right now I can tell the third one looks even better. Doing the legs here. I always like to make the character's pose looks like, to be honest, like a character from Mega Man. It's a really old habit of mine, I guess. You know, very exaggerated, like the chest and how they like lay back on their backs. Alright, I think it's good enough for this one. Let's make another one. I think the third one is the best, but let's try a different one just to be safe. Maybe we can have a... Remember, your first idea is never your best one. It's never the best one. And as you may already notice, English is not my mother language, so sorry about that. Tried something more, I don't know, powerful there, but then I thought, I don't know, I kind of like the mood of the third one because it looks like a little bit imposing and proud. And that's what I'm aiming for right now. This last one is also looking very good. And you may also notice that every single one, if it's smaller and smaller, that's because I noticed that I was focusing a little bit on details, and that doesn't help right now. So I work small, that way I cannot focus on the details, just the pose. Remember, we don't care about details right now. At the end, I choose these 2 because I consider these 2 like the best candidates. And let's see. This one looks a little bit tilted. Let's fix that out. With the lasso tool, I just select it and rotate a little bit. Now looking better. Now let's scale it up to match the size of the other. And now we can compare the 2 much better. A common thing that I do is, you see here, I'm flipping the image to have a fresh look of the image. That way I can notice some mistakes, I don't know, easily. It's like having a fresh view of the picture. Here I'm just wrapping the pose to make it look a little bit better because I noticed that some things looks off. The way he stands in relation to the leg and that kind of stuff. And now this one, I don't like how this leg looks too long in comparison to the other. So let's fix it a little bit. You see, for now, I don't care about details. I don't even know how the character is gonna end up looking. For now, it's all about the pose. And so far, I think I like this one. I'm gonna work with this one. Yeah, this one will do. So I select that one and get rid of the other one. Make it larger. And now we can start worrying about at least basic shapes. Remember, this is not detailed yet. We just want to know what is going on here. I mean, we got the silhouette, but what exactly is behind there? I know there is a head here. So I'll make like a basic shape for the head, just to know where the head is and where it's pointing at. Remember at the beginning I said I want something looking like a little bit proud and confident, so I'm gonna make him looking like with the head tilted up but looking downwards to us, giving him this like I'm better than you feel, or don't mess with me, I don't know. This will help later on when we start actually refining the form. But for now, we just want the basic form. By the way, during all this process, I'm just using the basic brush. Nothing fancy there. You may also notice that the brush that I use, it's one of the presets of Photoshop. It's called the chalk brush. And the reason behind that is because it's very messy, and that way it will get really funky results. You may wonder, why would you ever want that? Well, the thing is that if you have a clean brush, believe it or not, you, even if you don't want to, will start focusing on making things look detailed. And as I mentioned before, and I will mention a lot of times through this tutorial, that's not what we want right now. I'm finishing the torso here. This is it. Think of this like a map that will help us later on to develop the character even more. Of course, you need anatomy knowledge in order to do this properly. Anatomy takes time. This is not an anatomy tutorial. It's just showing you how I do character illustrations. But yeah, it takes time, so be patient with that. Of course, I'm not saying that my anatomy is perfect. It's very far away from that. But I have at least a basic knowledge of it. Here I finish the arm. And I'm trying to make the form match with the silhouette as much as possible, because the feeling is there. And if I change the form too much, we may lose it. You see right there, I had to modify the silhouette a little bit because I noticed that the leg was too thick in comparison to, I mean the knee was not thick enough in comparison to the leg. And so far, we almost finished with the basic shape of the body of the character. Here with the hand, I just make a basic shape that represents the hand, because as I say earlier, we don't focus on detail right now. We just want that pose right, to feel right. We will focus on details later. Okay, I think I'm happy with how it's looking so far. Now I just see how it looks without the silhouette, and to have a better view of it, maybe tilt a little bit, and of course flip the image. And I noticed that the head is a little bit too to the left side, so I grab it with the lasso tool and move it back to the right side a little bit. Oh, saving, of course. Don't forget to save. Flipping again to see how it looks now, and it's looking better. Alright, now I reduce the opacity of that layer and create a new one to work on top. Right now, we start refining just a little bit more. Remember, we're not focusing on detail just yet. It's just explaining what is going on here. I mean, I know that this is the eyebrow of my face, and I do these lines to know where my character is looking at. Later on, that will help me place the different facial features like the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Like you see now. The hairline. And of course the hair. You see, everything still looks pretty messy, but little by little we'll refine the form. The reason we do it this way is because if we notice something wrong, we can change it really easily because we have not spent a lot of time doing something. And also because sometimes you just notice things and you decide, hey, we should change this, but just because you spend so much time doing it, a part of you is like, oh shit, but no, it doesn't look like that bad, so let's leave it as it is. And believe me, it happens to all of us, myself included. That's why I find this way a lot more helpful than it looks. Saving again. I noticed that there was a mistake with the way that the neck bone looks. Because of the perspective, I modified a little bit in comparison to the original sketch. Remember, your sketch is not perfect. Sometimes you will notice things along the way and say, okay, I can improve this. Just keep going. Nothing fancy here. Now we can start defining the hand just a little bit. Saving is always good. Don't forget to save. And so far I can tell that I like the pose. Maybe I won't need any major changes, at least to the pose itself. Again, I will flip the image just to see how it looks. Let's turn off this layer. And so far, I think it looks good. Okay, now I'm searching on Google. I'm gonna look for some reference. I want reference because I want the pose to look even better, especially the part of the face because it's a little bit tricky to draw a face looking up. And also I want reference for the armor or the outfit that this character is gonna wear. I end up looking for something like leathery like maybe, I don't know, rogues. If you ever play any fantasy game like World of Warcraft, you know that they like to wear leather armor. And that's the kind of feel I'm aiming for. I just went to Google and find a couple of pictures that I liked and use it as reference. Here I'm just making a new document in order to put my reference to be able to see it easily. Oh, I like this pattern. I think I will end up mixing these two, the black and the brown one, and maybe adding a little bit of detail of the others. Now I will divide my viewport in order to be able to see both documents at the same time. I don't know if in Photoshop it's called viewport. Maybe I'm using too much 3D programs. Just like we did with the body, we will have the same workflow for the armor. We will start with a basic sketch from big forms to details. Right now we just want those big shapes. I will start here with the shoulder. I mean the hood, sorry. Here I'm trying to get that pattern that I like it before. Mixing the two pieces. Remember, it's always better to have reference. The more reference you have, the better the image will look at the end. Of course, you can try doing stuff from your mind, but believe me, it will just look better if you use reference. Well, with that pattern in mind and the details on the shoulders, I'm gonna need to make myself. I'm gonna have to do the rest of the parts by myself without using reference. That way, I will make sure that I have a good balance of things that I have from my reference and things that I have made by my own. I mean, of course, I could just search for more reference in order to do the pants, but I don't think I will find something that looks similar to this outfit. So I will just have to improvise. I will have to improvise. Since I like that pattern that much, I will just stick it here on the legs and see how it looks. Add some padding or something that looks like armor, I don't know. It's always a good idea to keep in everything that you draw or design. It's always nice to keep a nice balance of big, medium, and small shapes. That's something that I learned from one of my favorite YouTubers, Skin and Laffrey. It really makes everything looks more interesting when you have that kind of balance in shapes. Another thing you may also notice is I tend to work from very far. That's because, like I mentioned all the time, I don't want to focus on detail, and this allows me to just focus on the bigger picture. Everything looks really messy, but later on we will gonna get a little bit closer and start refining the shapes. Believe it or not, this also saves a lot of time, especially if you're working for a client. Maybe somebody will want a change on the last minute, and if you spend a lot of time doing those details, well, that's gonna take a lot. Anyway, keep going with this armor sketch. Now I decide to put some bracelet there. Originally, I wanted my character to be like a sleeveless. I mean, I still do, but let's add the bracelet to see how it looks. It doesn't look bad. Focusing on the boots now. I tend to working a little bit here, then change and work a little bit there. That's because if you focus too much in just one single part of the character, other parts may look not that polished. And I want everything to look equally polished. I mean, right now we are not worrying about that, but you will get it when we actually start polishing and worrying about details. Decide to add the pattern also here. Not in the complete boot because that will make the whole design looks too charged. Remember, always keeping in mind the medium, large, and small, or large, medium, small, however you want to say it. Now I can get close, like I mentioned before, and worry about refining stuff. Think of this new layer that we'll make in like our line art layer. So create a new layer, grab your brush. Oh, here I'm gonna search for the reference in order to have a better view of the face in this angle. I found a picture on Google that will serve my purpose. So here we got it, move it to Photoshop in order to use it as reference. Flip it to the other side. And now we can start working on it. Since I already have like the basic map of my character where it is, I just need the picture for the detail, like the eyes, the mouth, and the nose. But as you may already notice, I already have the basic form right, and that's what it's important. No matter how detailed the picture is, if the basic shapes are not right, not amount of detail in this world will make the picture work. That's something that I learned the hard way. Working with eyebrows here, the nose, nostrils. It's very important to make the nose look close to the eyes due to the angle of the head. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to do this because we are so used to draw the nose far away from the eyes. But in order to make this pose look correct, we have to work on that. That's why using reference is so important. Another example here, I'm doing the mouth and refining the shape, but later on I will notice that the original mouth that I draw is too far away on the left side, so I'll just move it a little bit to the right side, focusing on the chin. Oh god, English. It's chin, right? The cheekbone here, going back to the chin. The eyes are a tricky part. I struggle a little bit, but thanks to the reference, I managed to do a pretty decent job. I also noticed that the ear was too low in my original sketch. That's why we don't want to spend a lot of time in these sketches, because later on we will notice that things are not perfect. Very far away from perfect, actually. Defining the jawline a little bit. Starting with the eyes. In the reference, the character is looking to the top left. I mean to the top right, but I want my character to look at us. And since my mood was something like proud and I'm feeling, you know, like this kind of cocky characters, he's looking like down on us. Here's what I mentioned before about the mouth. I refined the mouth and then notice that it's not quite right there, but keep focusing on there. Don't worry about too much in a single part of the sketch. Move on. I recommend to move on here and there. That way you will not only you will save time, but you will go back and solve those mistakes easier. You don't have to solve it right away. I noticed that the hairline was not looking good there. So I just erase it and focus on this instead. Now that looks better. I noticed that the eyes are too close together, so I decided to select it with the lasso tool and separate it a little bit. Yeah, it looks better now. And I am kind of happy with how the face is looking so far. Defining the edge of the face a little bit there. Moving the mouth, like I mentioned before. And now looks much better. Okay, now that I'm happy with the character's face, we're gonna do the same with the rest of the body. We have a pretty decent base sketch for the armor and the regular outfit, general outfit of the character. So it's just a matter of start inking now. Remember, I don't like to make the lines perfect because at the end of the day, I'm not even going to use the lines. So I just have the lines as a rough guide. Later on, they will slowly disappear. So don't worry about getting the perfect lines. But if that's your thing, of course you can use the pen tool to have all your lines very regular and smoothly. But in this case, we don't care about lines. So now we have to refine the previous sketch. We have a good base, but there are some things that are not readable yet. For instance, this should look like a belt, and it's buried barely there. But with the reference, I can easily put at least a base of the details to make it recognizable. And it's pretty much doing the redefining the shape until we finish and we are done with the sketch. Next up, we're gonna prepare the base mask for coloring. See you there.